Hey guys, welcome back to another video. We decided to put together a couple of kind of cash flow tips and pitfalls for you. So we've got 7 and then a little bit of a surprise slash challenge for this upcoming week. So the first tip is, as I said, more or less a question. It's kind of how to handle items in your budget each month that are more or less a regular expenses. You don't know exactly how much. So like your electric, your gas bill, things that may fluctuate kind of throughout the year. So there's a couple of different ways to do it. Number one, you can either take an average of the entire year and kind of budget based upon that. 2, like I said, sometimes your electric or your gas company will actually have a kind of a prorated plan for you to be able to do this. Or 3, if you're kind of a super nerd like myself, let's say you'll actually look back to last year and say, hey, last November we spent X number of dollars, and then you can kind of plan based upon that, give or take, 10% or so. So that's kind of how to handle those items that are always kind of fluctuating. And hopefully once you kind of get into this, you'll get a better sense of it. So
the next thing to not forget about is your sinking funds. Those are items that you pay quarterly, biannually, or annually, like insurances for car, home life, all that kind of stuff. You can divide the cost of the item by the number of months that you need to save up for, and then just put that money aside.
So the next one is to check your percentages. So a lot of times you may not necessarily know from doing budgets in the past, or if you've never done one before, how much to kind of put towards certain things. So in the back of your workbook, there's actually, and unfortunately I can't give you a page number, there's a form that says recommended percentages. And it goes through and says like charitable giving is 10 to 15%, savings is 10 to 15%, your housing should be 25 to 35%. So this will give you kind of more recommended percentages to kind of utilize. That's also kind of a check, so you'll be able to not be like that couple that we heard about in the last video that was spending $1,200 on going out to eat. I'm also going to link Rachel Cruz, who's Dave Ramsey's daughter, did a great video on this. I'm going to kind of link that to there, so it'll be somewhere on the video right about now.
Number 4 is don't just budget. Make sure you're tracking your expenses as well. Your budget's not going to work for you if you just write all the numbers down, but then you don't actually pay attention to where all your money is going. So make sure you track it as the month goes on.
Absolutely, and this kind of piggybacks on that. So feel your money whenever possible. We talked about this. The envelope system is a great way to handle this. I know it's tough to handle cash, but at least while you're going through this process, this is a fantastic way of feeling that. It also helps to eliminate a little bit of this tracking. If you've got $1,000 towards groceries that you want to put into an envelope, you don't have to track every single time you go to the grocery store. When you do that, you just pull it out of that envelope and you say, okay, I only have this much money left at the end of the month, and then you can use it that way.
Consider brief budget meetings. I think almost on a weekly basis, I think I give you a call and say, hey, I just want you to know I spent money on this or I spent money on that. It doesn't have to be anything big or major, but just to communicate with your spouse or your accountability partner throughout the month as you go so that you can make sure you're paying attention to where you're at.
And definitely, like I said, if you're new to this whole process, this is a really important step, just so you don't get ahead of yourself or spend too much money at the beginning of the month. So. Lastly, don't beat yourself up. As Dave talked about this past week, it's going to take about 90 days to get this right. It's going to take you a couple budget sessions to be able to do this. So give yourself some grace in that way and give yourself some flexibility. So, and lastly, we've got a little bit of a challenge for you coming up this week. This upcoming week is going to be on dumping debt. This is a fantastic lesson. As I said, bring a friend to this lesson, particularly maybe someone who's struggling with debt, somebody that maybe is asking you questions about this class. We're going to challenge you. We're going to make you feel uncomfortable, he said. So coming up this week, we're going to talk about a little plastic surgery. So I want you guys to bring your credit cards with you. As we talked about before, we've got a lot of credit cards in this class. And I hope you're starting to get the impression about what this class is going to do for you and basically empower you to be able to do with your money. And hopefully with that you realize that those credit cards are just they're chains, they're slaves, you're slaves to them. So it's something that I want to free you from that slavery that you've got. And I'm not afraid to bribe you either. So listen, we're going to have some good gifts. We've got a couple of books from Dave Ramsey's crew here. We've got Chris Hogan's Retire Inspired, the Total Money Makeover book. So, bring these, and you can actually give one of these to a friend if you get one of these. But let's see, you got to cut up credit cards to get one. So hopefully have enough to be able to give one to everybody who cuts up some credit cards. So definitely bring those. We want to celebrate with you. This is an awesome step to be able to take. I know it's a scary step, but it's an awesome step, and we want to see you succeed with money. So we can't wait to see you this upcoming class. And as always, if you have any questions, let us know about it. Thanks.
Bye.